Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second monthly meeting of the Council for the Township of Admaston, Bromley. As the appointed hour at 7:30, I'm calling the meeting to order. I would invite everyone that is here present to join with me to open this meeting this evening in the observation of a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I now see the motion to approve this evening's agenda. Councillor Hamilton.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gurley. The Council approved the agenda of February 16th, 2023, regular Council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Council, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I should have a motion again, I believe, Councillor Hamilton, the minutes of the February 2nd, 2023 Council meeting.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gurley. Be it resolved that the Council adopted the following meeting minutes, February 2nd, 2023, regular Council meeting.
Thank you. Council, you've heard the resolution. You've had opportunity to review the minutes. Any errors or omissions? See none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. With that, we're very pleased to have Norm Dagg with us, the Executive Director with the Sunshine Coach. Council is certainly aware in some of our orientation, and I think we actually made the commitment for 2023. It's an inordinately useful and valued service in our community. Mr. Dagg, very pleased to have you here this evening speaking for fairly low $600, I think, is the contribution thereabouts from the Township of Admaston. It is certainly leveraging substantial dollars out of the Provincial Transit Fund. It's enormously well received in our community and substantial utilization. I'm not sure if it was on this report somewhere. I just saw the utilization numbers and I can't remember where it is. Oh, okay. That's probably what I've seen. With that, very pleased to have you with us this evening. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. I'm pleased to bring to you Sunshine Coach. Just going to give you a quick executive summary. Not going to drill down too far about what Sunshine Coach is, who we help, what we do, what our business model is, how our business model is sort of counterintuitive business models that you're probably already pretty much aware of. We'll touch base on that. And towards the end, we'll deal with some challenges that we're about to face in the future so that you're aware of things coming down the pipe. And if there's any time left in the time budget, at the end I'll field some questions. Okay. So getting into it, general information. Sunshine Coach is not-for-profit. We operate under the auspices of a charitable organization known as Friends of the Disabled Redcoat Inc. We are a designated specialized transit provider for the town of Bromley as well as the townships of Admaston, Bromley, Township Valley, Greater Madawaska, Fortin, and Whitewater region under the Bay program of NTO. We provide fare-based accessible transportation for people living with any form of disability, and it's embraced by the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, the AODA. In a typical pre-COVID year, we conduct about 36,000 trips annually. We operate 15 accessible vehicles, which are converted to handle client needs for any form of disability, temporary, permanent, visible or not. The fleet consists of 13 small coaches, one mid-sized vehicle, and one small accessible bus. Our staff, our senior managers team is made up of 3 people, executive director, an operations manager, and a traffic manager. Our salaried group consists of a driver/mechanic, an operations specialist, a supernumerary /generalist, and we have a part-timer drivers group of 2 people. Friends of the Disabled is a charitable organization providing governance and fundraising support for Sunshine Coach. This is a voluntary board of directors consisting of a president, past president, treasurer, secretary, and 6 directors. It is essentially the port of last resort for funding shortfalls between fair revenues and operating expenses, and also provides capital funding for acquisition of fleet assets. Our business model reflects the nature of the business, which is service to the public. It's not like a for-profit business. The analogy we tend to use often is that we're in the business of selling widgets for $25 that cost us $30 each to make. So obviously this is counterintuitive to a regular business. The busier we get, the more money we lose. On your packages that you had received earlier, probably the second last page, you'll find something that's entitled Comparison Fair Revenues versus Expenses, No Subsidies, would be the second last sheet, I think, in your package, if not it's the last. And what this spreadsheet demonstrates, it just figures over the last 5 years, shows our fair revenues versus expenses and statement of profit and loss for each year. It's obvious that we lose, if we were a regular business, we would be losing about somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 every year, which is not a model for sustainability if this was a regular business. So clearly, we have a need for subsidies in order to make sure that we continue in business as a nonprofit. The providers, the sources of subsidies are in order of decreasing amount. The MTO gas tax rebate program, that's a very, very important thing for us. And they provide funding for to assist in operations as well as capital expenditures. So as long as we justify those, we cut those costs and then we make a claim for a rate rebate on it. The aforementioned Friends of the Disabled, they are fundraising. They provide governance and fundraising. They're the next biggest contributor of subsidies to us. Sponsorship from businesses and service clubs, municipal subsidies from the gas tax payers, including yourself, and as I mentioned, the court of last resort funding from Friends of the Disabled reserves if needed, but obviously that's something we want to do. Nobody really wants to dig into reserves because it's not sustainable. Eventually, you're going to run out of reserves. So. Touching on the financial reporting and the oversight, this is important, I think, to us, and probably to you, to know sort of what oversight there is of operations. We have annual external financial audits conducted by McKilligan & Associates of Renfrew. Friends of the Disabled organization undergoes annual financial review, also by McKilligan & Associates. The annual gas tax application is invented by the town of Renfrew Treasurer on behalf of all the municipal partners prior to filing with MTO. We report annually to the Canadian Urban Transit Association on execution. This is cross-examined with the MTO gas filing for consistency and determination of current and future allocations. They work UTA and MTO work hand in hand where it comes to gas tax. And our annual audited financial statements and budgets are approved by a motion of the Friends of the Disabled Board annually. Now the last sheet in your package refers to the activities that we typically conduct. So a 10-year sampling that we conduct in Admaston Bromley. It counts all of the trips that either originate or have their destination in your township. With the exception of the COVID years, it's pretty consistent, the amount of trips that we conduct. It's around 800, a little over every year. And just for fun, over a 10-year total, it's been 5,789 trips in and out of Admaston Bromley. I should mention that Sunshine Coach has been in business since 1985, so we're over 3 decades. And we've really appreciated the support and partnership of the townships, especially, that help us keep in business. Okay, so turning our attention to our future challenges, we're thinking that the current not-for-profit / charitable organization model that we have operated under since 1985 is limited in its ability to grow the service to meet increasing demands. We believe that we are at or very near our theoretical maximum capacities under that model, and growing the service is probably not going to be possible. So our target is to hold our existing services at the current levels of staffing, vehicles, and trip capacity. And currently working on our latest revision of our 10-year strategic business plan, and that will be one of the focuses, trying to maintain. And if we were to have a satisfaction of our wish list and there were additional sustainable sources of government funding, then we will obviously stand by to change our model. We're concerned because even now we have a lot of sold-out days for long-haul trips into Pembroke and other places, and that is a small taste of not being able to handle the demand. Those trips go unaccommodated and raises the prospect in the future of trip rationing, which is really something we prefer not to do. So those are some of the challenges we're facing. In terms of keeping our fleet, 15 vehicles, they have basic depreciation life cycle of 5 years. We hope to push those vehicles beyond that, as long as they're safe to operate. It gives us a little extends the life cycle of the vehicles, which is something we're very cognizant of. For example, supply chain issues that everybody's dealing with. I realize that every business, every citizen. But in pre-COVID days, the cost of deploying a small coach will have to purchase a stock vehicle and then send it for conversion so it can handle the needs of anybody living with a disability. The cost of that vehicle was $56,000. Our most recent vehicle, which we're currently in the process of getting converted and we'll be deploying it within a couple of weeks, will cost $84,000. That's 50% increase in the cost of replacing one small vehicle. And we have 13 of those. And the larger vehicles, the mid-size and the bus, are proportionately higher cost. And that's just to replace a fossil fuel vehicle that we've been using all these years, replacing it with the same. So this is an apples to apples comparison, and it's 50% increase, which is pretty daunting when we look at the life cycle of the vehicles in our fleet and keeping them current. Growing the fleet is going to be a really difficult process because we've been struggling to keep the size of our fleet as it is and hold our staffing and trip capacities at current levels. We like all businesses right now, are facing issues with staffing, recruiting people. We need a very specific kind of person to be a driver to handle the needs of people who are living with disabilities. And like all businesses, we're facing staffing issues. That's going to be an issue in the future as well. Now, achieving the zero emissions standards is going to be extremely difficult. We're in a situation in Renfrew County, obviously, as you're aware, is completely a different jurisdiction from many provinces because of the geographic size and the population distribution and whatnot. But the vehicles that are the prototypes are currently working on have restrictions for weight and range. Currently, the best they can do with a vehicle for range is 200 kilometers, which would get us to Ottawa and almost back to Renfrew. Those vehicles would be really inappropriate for what we need, and one of the small coaches is probably going to be about $40,000 each for the small vehicles. So that's going to be an issue, and seems to be a moving target because the suppliers of those vehicles are still working on the prototypes. They're trying to figure out exactly what those vehicles are going to look like. That's going to be an issue for us going forward. So as I mentioned, our current strategy with the NFB and the charitable organization is restricting its ability to grow. Bear in mind, it's a volunteer group, and they raise significant funds. In fact, they're second on the list of funds that can contribute to our operations and capital. So what we are, in a perfect world, we would like to see additional sustainable funding from upper levels of government, starting at the county and the province. And we're thinking that because we really don't have a official standing other than we're a service provider under the Canadian Urban Transit Association, but if somehow the signatories to the gas tax could get together and form a committee and speak with one voice, and perhaps go after sustainable funding that could be tagged for supporting specialized transit under the gas tax, so that that funding doesn't come out of your tax base because you obviously have commitments running the rest of your business, and we're thinking that if that can be ongoing, if the committee could formulate a voice and state the opinions of what the needs are for accessible transit in Renfrew County, it would be a good thing. But we would be a willing partner. That's not something that we can really broker. So I'm just planting a little seed there, and hope that might come to pass. And if nobody's speaking up about what our challenges are for specialized transit in Renfrew County, then nobody's going to hear us. The decision makers in Chamber are not going to be getting forward because they don't really know there's a problem here. That's a quick overview of what we do, kind of an executive summary. So if anybody has any questions, I'll do my best to field them.
Okay, thank you, Norm. What I will say, commend you for, I think you've done this before, pretty comprehensive report in a very time-constrained environment. So I think you captured the essence of both what the service provides and what the challenges are. So I would now open the floor to council. Any questions, comments? Councillor?
Think about what we're doing as well. I'm just curious, where's the push for zero emissions coming from?
It's the federal government is the main push, and we've identified, in my personal opinion, a highly untenable deadline of 2035. I just don't see that happening because there's not the supply chain to support it. There's not the, the electrical vehicles that are available, especially out here. So we don't really know. The provincial government is on board. They embrace that. The federal government is suggesting, and it's it's an important initiative. No question. Like I'm be totally in favor with it. My question is it attainable for people like us for specialized transit? And that's a very narrow view, but that's what my focus is. So. I don't know if I answered your question.
I was just wondering if there's a specific requirement for transit that's officially on paper saying you have to meet that. I know there's a generalization by 2035 that we're supposed to be electric vehicles, but everybody needs it unsustainable or realistic at this point. So I just wonder if there's an official.
We've not been advised of any hard and fast deadlines. We work with have suppliers of fossil fuel vehicles who we've dealt with over many years, and we've reached out to them and picked their brains on it. We're very aligned on the Canadian Urban Transit Association. We are members in good standing, and they're very good at putting out information, but I haven't asked them in the last year or so. They really were non-committal in terms of what the targets are going to be and what the timeframes are. I think they're obviously in touch with the suppliers too, as well as the consumers of the products and the providers, service providers like ourselves. So it could be that they just don't have an answer that's hard and fast. I don't know if there's any legislation involved, and resources are pretty limited. Because pretty far down the chain. So.
I appreciate it. Like you said, Bromley County is unique with the distance we have to travel to accommodate people. So I really want to see different rules in place for when it does come.
Renfrew County is distinct from almost all jurisdictions. It's almost to the point of being unique. Like it's a geographical mass. It's bigger than the province of Prince Edward Island. It has 85% of the population spread out over vast areas. Not much in the way of freeways, a lot of secondary roads, and not much in the way of really corporate presence to help subsidize and whatnot. So, being in Renfrew County, I think that we would be looking at we've already seen it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a much bigger village to have specialized transit across an area like Renfrew County. So I don't know what the future brings, but I can just go on record as saying Sunshine Coach will participate in any discussions or any research in any way we can help because I think there's a problem looming, and we'd like to be part of the solution rather than stand by and own the fact that there is a problem.
Definitely appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, Council? I think that a couple of things that resonated in particular with Mr. Dag when he was describing the potential, hopefully can be avoided, of rationing. I chair the Health Committee at the County of Renfrew, which has oversight on the paramedic service. You may or may not have heard Ottawa is routinely in what is referred to as level zero. We have hit that in the County of Renfrew. What level zero refers to is there is not an ambulance available for dispatch. That's essentially what you're describing. I'm assuming that you are by time sitting level zero in the service you provide. We simply do not have vehicles to provide that transit option to our folks. So what that is demonstrating is that you are essentially at 100% capacity, full utilization, however you want to describe it. That's one of the key challenges. Of course, financial considerations are not assisting with that. Correct?
There's a lot of things that can be done better. If our worst case scenario is maintaining our current service levels, and we achieve that over the next 10 years, we'll be happy to do that. But the need for physical transportation is going to grow everywhere, not only in Renfrew County, because populations are aging. The demographic of 65 and older, 25% of those people will have an acquired disability that will affect mobility. There's a greater awareness of what constitutes a disability under AODA. Not all of them are visible. That's for sure. Not all of them are permanent. So the need is not going to decline, but if our ability to service the need stays level, then the demand is going to outstrip the supply. It's just as mathematical certainty, so that's going to happen. So if there are other solutions, we have ideas. I'm sure other people do as well, and maybe get in the same room, get some voices heard, and see maybe the direction for it can be worked out. But in my humble opinion, it's going to require sustainable funding from higher levels of government than we're seeing, or the gas tax gets a much higher percentage of the excise tax. Fossil fuels are going to decline. So gas tax, what's the future of gas tax? Nobody can give us an answer on that. And it's a very key piece of information for us. And if it declines because the consumption of the fossil fuels are declining and gas tax declines accordingly, that's going to create some severe issues for us. And obviously, we need that money. And if it were to come on or tear us the away altogether, then we would definitely be in interruption. We would be taking vehicles off the road at, each vehicle would be like 3,000 or 4,000 trips on. And we're seeing all kinds of things that we never saw before. In the post-COVID world, we've seen a real shift from local transit to longer haul. We're all over the province, like people moving from Renfrew County to children are moving, aged parents from one long-term facility closer to their place to and the other ways too, like they're also coming into Renfrew County as well. So we don't know what the growth is going to be. We feel that it's obvious that there's going to be growth, but nobody can put a handle on how big that's going to be. And if we can't service the demand, then that is trip rationing. And when you get into that, you have to make rules for who gets and that's the whole headache that nobody really wants to tackle. But if that were to happen, we would have to get guidance from the council to the gas tax partners, amongst others. But I'm not all gloom and doom. We love what we do. I think we're pretty good at it. We're the only ones that really offer weekend service. We have an after-hours rescue service where nurses at Renfrew Victoria Hospital would get stranded by an ambulance when they accompany a patient, and sometimes they're going to get home. We do that. We do a lot of work with the long-term care facilities. We do a lot of work in education with increasing the driving children who are on the spectrum that need the same drive or the same vehicle at the same time. We're pleased to do that. That's difficult for us to schedule around it with limited manpower. So I don't want to go away, leave you with the impression it's all doom, because I think there's a lot of good things going on. And I think it just needs to be built.
Sure. Very much appreciate your coming this evening. I think the council is much better informed on both the nature of the service, the incredible value provided through the service, and certainly the challenges before you. So thank you once again, Mr. Legg. Much appreciate your coming by this evening.
Honestly, it's been my pleasure to be here, and I'll come back every year.
see our way clear to do that. Thank you. With that, we're going to go directly into the Planning and Economic Development Committee report. Councillor Gurley, the floor is yours.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that Admaston Bromley Council accept in principle consent application B134/22 submitted by Outer Valley Oxygen, Carol Skibo, and Lisa Skibo Lindy, so long as requirements of contracting agencies are satisfied.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gurley. I don't know, Ms. Charkey, was there anything very comprehensive, extensive report on this? It is somewhat of a mystery that someone would have gone through this work substantively 40 years ago and didn't quite check the last box. At some point it had to have been something that we'll get around to, but I'm presuming most recently it was some substantial regret that it was not completed and yet finding ourselves in this situation again.
Yes, sir, you're absolutely right. One of my first calls when I first came here in November 2021 was from the county dealing with this issue, and it was understood by all parties that it had been completed, but it had not. So they've only gotten around to getting everything organized.
All right, thank you. Council, any questions or comments? They are related to both of these, so there'll certainly be, I think, opportunity in reviewing the next application as well. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be resolved that Admaston Bromley Council accept in principle consent application B135/22 submitted by Lisa Skibo Lindy and Brian Lindy, so long as requirements of commenting agency are satisfied.
And once again, this is certainly directly connected with the previous one. I'm assuming that there is nothing more needed to come forward from Ms. Charkey. Once again, Council, any questions, comments? The only comment I have, kind of a little bit that at least one of the principals may have been receiving study agreement. There are no issues identified by the planner. This is to move forward, but I think that from a practical perspective, this is achieving what the presumably Skibos, and now by marriage, Skibo is getting done something. But I look at this particularly with respect to that strange little access to the water, and I'm thinking that this council and future owners of these properties are no longer related to each other. This will probably be back in front of a council. This is one of the challenges in front of us. This is not in any way meant, this is satisfying a problem for the current owners, no question. But this is also why planning is important ahead of time, because I think that we're introducing an opportunity for 20, 30 years from now, when they are completely separate individuals that own these. Here's an opportunity for there to be irritation and conflict. I get the situation that is befalling them. That's why I was hoping that somebody would be here. I would certainly urge them to make some other accommodation, of course, in the next 5-10 year period. They do not have to be as reliant on the benevolence of the neighbors. In any event, seeing nothing further, all in favor? That is carried. There is nothing from the Community Services Committee this evening. Operations Committee, Councillor Hamilton, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gurley. Move resolved that the Council received the Public Works January 2023 report as information.
Thank you. And with that, I presume that I am inviting Mr. Brzezinski to speak to the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, January was a pretty crazy month and quiet month at the same time. We only had 6 winter events. They were all snow-based, but there was a lot of snow plowing and sanding operations that carried on after that we call cleanup. Like I say, small drifting that doesn't declare it to be a special weather event, but we're definitely out there doing. So with that, just maintenance of vehicles were ongoing as well, and the spring thaw, if we get any more than what we've just had this last week, looks somewhat fortunate for us from what we see right now. There may not have to be a lot of steaming done. Touch wood. We'll wait and see what it brings forward to us.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions, comments on the report? I think that it has been a very topsy-turvy winter, notwithstanding just a couple of cold days a week ago. It does seem, or a couple of weeks ago, it does seem to me that we've had a lot of precipitation, but a lot of it has gotten away. I think it had all been built up. I would be probably filling sandbags about now if I lived adjacent to any water courses. But it is really good to see it away. At the same time, from a municipal perspective, at my own place on Friday, I think I spent $150 to sanitize that has now disappeared into the rest of the sound of the entire year round now, and I'm proposing to invite the contractor back to come and gather up his sand again, and I will sell it back to him if he can find it. In any event, if there's nothing further, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. There is nothing from Waste Management Committee this evening. Finance and Administration Committee. Councillor Gordon, what do you have for question, please?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that Council approve the January 2023 payment register listing.
Thank you. And is there anything, Mr. Wazinski, this isn't directly related to simply the operations, this is the payment voucher. Anything, Mr. O'Reilly, you would wish to care to speak to?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In my absence the last couple of weeks, Mr. Player was able to put the list together for me, and I did have an opportunity to review it. The detailed explanations do provide those explanations for about 88% of the total expenditures, which is the rest of them are fairly minor in dollar value, but if there are any questions at all from any members of council, we can fill in any blanks you may have at this point.
Thank you. With that, council, any questions, comments? Councillor Hamilton.
Just a question on clarity or not understanding the Renfrew and area health services. That's a large expenditure. What do we pay for the 2 to 1, or was that the order?
I'll tackle that one, Mr. O'Reilly. So, one has to turn the clock back to 2010 with the founding of the Renfrew Area Health Services Village Corporation. Ultimately, it was there was 4 partner municipalities, Admaston, Bromley, Horton, Greater Madawaska, and Renfrew, as municipal partners, each contributing 25% of administrative costs towards the doctor recruitment initiative. In its initial stages and right up until I'm going to venture to say 2020, though it could have been that 2019, lost the thread a little bit. The Renfrew Industrial Commission was a major funding partner. The principal funding partner in providing what I'm going to call account 2, or the segregated account, which is the doctor recruitment funds, the incentive funding. There was fundraising. There were multiple smaller contributors. Sorry, I should also say that Montreal Hardware was a major contributor towards the per candidate recruitment initiative, plus multiple smaller funders. The goal of the initial goal of the health services village was the recruitment of 14 family doctors. That has been achieved. It is somewhat dormant now. The Industrial Commission removed its itself from any consideration moving forward, which unfortunately was what I would venture to say was a linchpin in this entire initiative being able to be funded. So that's a pretty substantial challenge. Now, thankfully, the initial goal of 14 family physicians was met. Unfortunately, the downside is that the need has not subsided. And there are also some structural issues in that. Now we're starting to move away from that, but the cohort that has been retiring that were replaced with these 14, we're seeing pretty large rosters, anywhere from 2,000, 2,500, up to 3,000 doctors. By and large, doctors that have been recruited in that place, it's taking at least 2, if not 3, to absorb the patient rostering, which leads us to, at last forecast, this is across the county of Renfrew, with a population, give or take, 100,000 people, with maybe 30,000 without a family doctor now across the county. That has been, that's been the vital importance of this entity that is Renfrew County VTAC, which is kind of the entry point into accessing primary care in the county, is filled up. That's the challenge. We are enormously challenged just to find the doctors to replace on a 1-to-1 ratio, but 1-to-1 is absolutely not going to meet the need. If that were the case, or at the current levels, that would only absorb a third of the patients. So there's an enormity of a challenge there. It is unstinting, unyielding the demand for these doctors, but there is a challenge for us to put this together. Ultimately, Councillor Hamilton, in answer to your question, that partnership endures through until the last of the funds are paid. There was just a couple of doctors tonight recently that completed the commitment to 14. There is a line of credit that is held with the town of Renfrew that has facilitated that. There is payments going on towards that. If memory serves, and I am going slightly from memory, I think 2025 will be the final installment of that. The initial outlay in 2010, I think, was $25,000 a partner, and it's had an escalator of 2% per year. So whatever that amount is now, it's what, 33,000, I guess it's on here somewhere. That's where we're at in terms of the commitment. So hopefully that does something towards addressing your question.
Yeah, thanks for the clarity.
Okay.
Kind of what I was wondering what it was for.
Anything further on the report? I have a couple of questions. One, I guess, is probably for you, Mr. Brzezinski. Traffic Logics, is that kind of like an annual license fee that we're required? Is that for us to access the data that machine is providing?
I can probably answer that better, but yes, that's exactly what it's for.
Okay. Well, I will admit it is fair then.
It is a yearly renewal fee. Without that fee, we wouldn't get any data.
Okay. We have the machine that would flash up and tell you we're going too fast,
yes,
but we would not be provided anything.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. The other question makes sense, but it seems with respect to, what is it, 4 or 5 lines above that, I'm going to be very careful. I'm not seeking information about an identifiable individual, but I'm typically when I see owner's buyback, it is the staff member seeking to make themselves whole. In this instance, there was a check written. Was there an overpayment? What that seems odd to me.
Yeah, there are 2 types of buybacks. There are certain buybacks that qualify that the employer must match the contribution of the employee, and there are others that only the employee has to pay both shares. In either case, owners will not deal directly with the employees as far as sending checks. Okay. They want us to be the collector and turn the money over to them. It was in this case, there was an employee who did buy back an absence. They paid us, and we cut a check to owners anyway.
Owners, just like the school boards in the county, where the bill collector.
They don't want to have to chase anybody in the event that a check didn't clear or something. They have no recourse, whereas the local employer does have some form of recourse.
Yeah, nor do I, but we're at the bottom of the food chain, so what are we going to do? In the event, I have nothing further. Once again, council, one more opportunity. Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. next one is Councillor Bromley again.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Hamilton, resolved that July 20th and December 21st, 2023 council meetings be cancelled, and that staff return notices to be advertised on the township's website and social media sites.
Thank you. And Ms. Chapp, would you wish to speak to this, please?
Yes, when it came to Admaston Bromley in 2021, for the 2022 year, we did not have a report of such because we were going to have limited council meetings where decisions could be made. So we went all through summer, but the normalcy for council is to cancel one of the meetings in July to enable council has lots of things that they have to do, and it gives a break for council. So the report's coming forward to follow what has been done in the past. It's usually the second meeting of July, and we carry on with August. I have done a quick little poll of surrounding municipalities, and a lot of them only have one meeting in December. So I thought that this was an opportunity to bring forward to council if you'd be interested in also having one meeting in December as well, especially seeing as the second meeting is so close to Christmas, December 21st. I thought it would be a good idea to cancel that one and only have one meeting in December and then get right back on the horse again in January. That's why this report's before you, so we have enough time to get prepared as well. And when we're making out the work, I'm already planning things for April meetings and May meetings, so it's good to get this report in early so that we know which meetings we are planning for.
Okay, thank you. With that, Council, I'll throw the floor open. Any question or comment? None. I have, it's been standard since I've been here. I think it has been movable. Mostly in the summer it was to provide for opportunity for travel, vacation, summer holiday, so that council would not be missing, forced to miss perhaps a council meeting and just to be able to schedule some of their away time. It has moved a little bit from time to time. This is really that. I think it's universally, it's been either the last meeting of July 90% of the time. It might have pushed into the first meeting of August or something like that in the past. I am a little less enamored of the second one. It has been standard that we've had that meeting at the end of the year. I recognize that I think it's in April we're going to be recognize of April or March, perhaps, that we're going to be recognizing the agricultural folks. Typically, that was something that we actually did at the December Christmas meeting. We would often have like about 6 or 7 different recipients that had achieved some kind of recognition elsewhere for whatever reasons. Typically, we would do that there. Which also was consistent with Christmas. Then my other question would be, I mean, if we're not doing that at December, that is going to push whatever business that we have been dealing with into the first meeting of January. So I'm not as enamored of cancelling that one because that has been a business meeting. What is the impetus for the recommendation?
December is usually extremely busy for staff as we're doing year end. And trying to get things done, and as such, that meeting is very close to Christmas and the holidays season. But it is council's decision if they want to cancel it or not. We could always make the meeting in the middle of the month, one meeting in December, and make it the 14th. So that I think too, if we tried to invite people to come to a December 21st meeting, we're probably not going to get a lot of people coming out. But we could do a middle of the month. We could do a December 14th meeting, and that would give us ample time and be able to bring people in if that was what you were looking for. But that is where we were going with this. December is extremely busy, and it would just alleviate some of that having not a meeting. But again, it's council's position. That's just the recommendation.
Okay. Well, I certainly will defer to the council's will. Cognizant of the standard workload, if you will, that's coming in December. Where I will suggest, and I don't know that Councillor Green is the only other one in the room that has experienced this, but we filled the chamber at that meeting in December with the public. I'm sure you can attest to that, Councillor McGree. We would usually have 25 to 30 people in what was as full as the chamber generally ever gets to be. That's not a concern so much as if in fact it is an onerous challenge. First, I've been made aware of that in the standard work environment for December, but I will certainly throw it to input from council, and council would agree with that.
So I just looked quickly at the calendar, and November is a month where we skip a week because it's the five Thursday month. So if we wanted to, we could move the December 1st meeting the first meeting of December to November 30th, and then we'd have November 30th and December 14th. So we wouldn't be skipping any meetings, but that would move the extra week off to the end of December, which would kind of free up staff as Jennifer has requested.
I think that would be an elegant solution. In essence, it would be capturing both. We would adhere to our 2-week schedule, but it would also move the first meeting from that very first Thursday in December and more into the middle of the month, so as to try to capture anything that needed to be discussed and debated and decided, perhaps. How would council see the working of that as opposed to simply dropping? We would still be adhering to. So what does that work out to? Not 23 meetings then over the course of the year, and we would still be adhering to that. As I certainly am appreciative of that as a, I think, fairly elegant solution. What says the rest of council? Council Bromley, then Hamilton.
I believe that would fit their requirements. I think people would like to see us here discussing, so I think that would work as well.
Mr. Hamilton?
I agree. Just not sure how Kevin's going to write the motion. Write it in the air there, Kevin, and we'll proceed.
I think we can probably accommodate that somehow, and would probably not be restricted by the logistics of having the resolution. Did you have anything, Councillor Field? Okay. With that, then, Councillor McGree, are you prepared to move that the schedule of meetings be amended such that Council would hold 3 meetings over the month of November, and hold its first of December meeting, whatever that Thursday is?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's December 14th.
December, okay, thank you. So let there be 1 meeting held in December on December 14th, and 1 meeting held on December 30th, November 30th. The CAO has the resolution. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hamilton has so seconded. Is everyone clear on what it is? This is the motion to amend first. If there's nothing further, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Now we're voting on the motion as amended, which will remove the July 20th meeting from the schedule, and other than that, it will incorporate now the change with respect to the year-end meetings. So as amended, all in favor? That is carried. How we do that, so that's how I did it.
You'll probably decide.
Okay. Thank you. And Councillor Brewley, once again, with respect to holiday hours, 11C, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Hamilton. Be it resolved that council approve option 1, approving the closure of the municipal office on December 27th and December 28th, 2023. And be it resolved that information concerning the office hours and the hours at the Stone Road transfer site on December 24th and 31st be advertised on the Township's website and social media accounts. And be it further resolved that staff will make application for leave out of their accumulated bank time, vacation time, overtime, time and or overtime.
Thank you. Okay, once again, Ms. Charterby, did you wish to speak to this?
When I was doing the summer report for council, I decided I will bring ahead the holiday report so we give staff enough time to save days if council so wishes to go ahead with the recommendation. The way that the holidays work is Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve staff get half a day. It's not, staff is going to have to be here on the 22nd, probably past the half day mark, just as again year-end stuff is being done. So we are suggesting that we take a full day on the 29th instead of doing a half day on the 29th and a half day on the 22nd. That would leave the office only 2 days, and so that is why I'm recommending that we close the office on the 27th and 28th. We're statutorily closed on the 25th and 26th and January 1st. The transfer stations, there's not a lot of change. Last year there was more change. December 21st had more change. December 22nd wasn't too bad, the dates fell. This year, December 24th and 31st fall on whatever days that they're open. I can't remember. And so they would be closed at 1 o'clock. So those are the only changes. So yes, I'm recommending that we close the 27th, 28th. But again, it is up to you do see that we do have the option too, that we just remain open and staff are here.
All right, thank you. It does seem a very practical approach, particularly taking the 29th. I think that particularly on Christmas Eve, that is very valuable in having the half day, but I suspect that it is not probably limiting that much on the 22nd, the Friday the 22nd, given the couple of days. I think it's appropriate when it's only a 2-day work week to move there, and as you had indicated, I think within the report and within the resolution, I think it speaks to the time that staff can lose, which up to and including drawing from the future year. Now, if this passes in February, I suspect that everybody can work towards making sure that they have those 2 days and don't have to steal from the future. Council, what say you? Any questions, comments? Councillor Reid.
Sorry, couldn't find my mouse. So we've discussed this previous years, and unless I'm mistaken, I believe, and I realize we're not bound by previous council's decisions, but we'd always had concerns that taking a week off at year end was going to be a problem for potential people paying their taxes at the last minute, which, if I'm not mistaken, staff has told us in the past is actually a pretty big deal. There's a lot of people coming in during those couple of days to pay their taxes. So I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I just want to make sure we've taken into consideration that we're closing the office for more than a week, right at the end of the calendar year, and what implications that may have on our residents.
If I might, this is actually not precedent. We did just do this past Christmas season. Concern that Councillor Gree had noted, certainly I had raised that, but there are lots of options with respect to early in the new year, providing perhaps some grace for those who may be end of year payment before consideration is given towards including penalty. I think that that's a small concern, and I think that actually it was not. The experience, I think, was not that there was a substantial wave of folks coming in those days. And do keep in mind that if the public is given notification of this well in advance, then they have opportunity to come in like about a week before the end of the year as well. So I don't think that there's a particular challenge in the community. I'm certainly in favor of this. Councillor.
No, I forgot that we did implement it this year, and if we did it without any issues, and that's what staff recommends, then I'm okay with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further comment? Seeing none, all in favor? That's correct. Thank you. Livestock valuers. Once again, Councillor Gurley, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved by Council approved bylaw 2023-13, being a bylaw appointing livestock investigators for the Township of Admaston, Bromley. Be it further resolved, the council approved that the livestock valuers receive the Canadian Revenue Agency's reasonable per kilometer allowance, which will be adjusted every January 1st for the use of boat vehicles.
Thank you, Councilor Hurley. Any comments, Ms. Chartry?
No, I think the bylaw is pretty straightforward. I did try to explain in the report. MAFRA oversees the program. We get $50 for every incident that happens. It's an administration charge. They are looking at upping that charge, but the individuals have to travel to the site and back. And actually, as Mayor Donahue noticed, that we weren't paying them what everyone else is getting. So it was a good opportunity. We reached out to the livestock valuers, made sure that they're all still working. One is the most that works, and the others do help that individual out. We were quite busy last year in 2022, not so much this year, but there is that program in place, and you can only have so many kills happen on your property before you have to explain to OMAFRA what kind of challenges you're overcoming so that it stops. And we're just the administrators making sure that the money gets back and forth. But we do pay the mileage, and I think it's only right that they receive the same mileage allowance that everybody else does.
Thank you. Yeah, there has been a growing disparity. I think that the wording here such that it is the Canada, whatever CRA's allowable rate, becomes consistent. This is one of the things that we bump into. If we prescribe it in a document, then it might actually be reflective of 2 or 3 different documents. And here, unfortunately, so all through the 2022, we were at 61 cents. And all of the other mileage that was paid for those who were eligible for mileage. And unfortunately, the livestock values were by the own bylaw restricted to 50. So it's appropriate that we don't impose the fee, but tie it directly to the CRA's allowance. Thank you. Councillor McGree.
I thought a number of years ago we put across the board that all staff members, anybody representing, the council, were getting the standard fee as everybody else. Obviously, they're not because, as you said, it's prescribed in the bylaw. Is our intent here to remove this from the bylaw so that it's no longer prescribed in here, therefore it goes to the default rate, or is our intent to keep this prescribed? And if we do, do we have this in other bylaws? Should we be reviewing them and simply remove it from all of them and make it a standard single fee across the board?
I'll invite the CEO to comment. I don't know if it was contained in a bylaw that it was 50 cents. Do we have to rescind the bylaw or amend the bylaw? Or by rescinding 2023, that if we are approving this bylaw, are we revoking or rescinding a previous bylaw? It doesn't say we are, but in doing so, are we then revoking or rescinding this prescribed 50 cents? Okay, it is repealed within the wording of the bylaw itself. And by dint of that, we are then rescinding a prescribed amount, and instead we will be inserting that it shall be consistent with the CRA mileage rate.
Yeah, you'll remember in January 2022, we did this for council. We did this for committees and boards. We're just getting through all of the bylaws. We didn't do it a few years ago. It was actually just in January. It was prescribed in your bylaw and in the employment bylaw an actual number, and it was way below the CRA rate. So we're slowly finding all these bylaws. I do believe this is the last one. Now, every January, everyone will get the CRA rate continually every January. We don't have to revisit the mileage rate again.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? All in favor? That is carried. And finally, Councillor Woolley from Finance Administration on the appointment.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved, the council approved bylaw 2023-14, being a bylaw to appoint a treasurer, deputy CEO/clerk for the Township of Admaston, Bromley.
Thank you once again. And Council, so we have devoted some substantial time to this. I'm very pleased at being able to finally find a treasurer for the municipality of Admaston. Bromley. Looking forward to Ms. Coughlin coming here on the 13th of March. But I would invite any question or comment at this point. Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Moving on to Protective Services Committee, Councillor McGee.
So normally things coming up at the meeting minutes, we come up with the minutes of the meeting when we deal with it, but I thought it was a good idea to report this immediately. I actually wrote it down, so let me just read it. So the fire chief, through the fire committee, would like to express his appreciation to the Public Works Department for the assist with 2 specific fire calls in the last month. The driveways were originally not cleared very well, and the township plows cleared and sanded them to allow for easier passage of the fire trucks. So Steve, on behalf of the fire committee, could you please pass that expression of appreciation along to the public works staff and anyone else who helped out? Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ree. There is also the issue of the minutes, and I believe, I think we may have actually received the October minutes, but I think that we somehow had, in the shuffle, had overlooked or omitted the September, which is not to comment on them, but it is simply to receive them. And I believe that that's here, and certainly with your indulgence, I suspect Councillor Ree, Councillor Field has the resolution. So if you don't mind, I would go directly to Councillor Field if she could read this resolution, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gorley. Be it resolved that Council received the Douglas Fire Committee minutes from the September 14th, 2022 meeting.
Thank you. So, Councillor, you've heard the resolution. You've had opportunity to review the minutes. Any questions that you may have for the Chair of the Fire Committee? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried.
And that was everything from Protective Services today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From the County of Renfrew, the County Council summary is attached. Council has had opportunity to review. We'll note, prior to coming to order, Councillor Hamilton had spotted something in here about a delegation at Roma from Councillor Brose, James Brose, the Mayor of North Algonquin-Wilberforce, is also the Chair of the Development and Property Committee at the county. Councillor Hamilton had inquired about delegation vis-a-vis the requirements for fencing under the, I'm not sure which act it is, but along railroads, it is the operator of the railroad that is responsible for all fencing. Upon the closure and transfer of that property, along with that transfers the obligation for the fencing. I responded to Councillor Hamilton in that the delegation was not seeking to remove the obligation of the succession being required to address fencing. What it was meant to do was to discuss with the ministry the opportunity for funding streams that might be made available outside of the commercial operators, i.e. this is along the former rail beds that are now the KMP and the Algonquin Trail, the former CP Railroad, whether now that they are not commercial operations but are in fact public trails, if there were any funding streams that might be available to assist with the fencing. And that was important at the time that the delegations were being arranged. I did express concern that they may be giving consideration to trying to remove the obligation. I felt that that would be appropriate and could support that as a delegation was assured that that was not at all the intent. It was to seek some funding. Having said that, any further questions or comments on anything on the county council summary? Seeing none, all in favor? Did I have that resolution right? I guess I didn't either. I asked everybody to be in favor, and I didn't ask Councillor Field. She would read that resolution, and then I will ask for the voting.
All about time. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gorley. Be it resolved that council receives the County Council Summary Report for January 2023 as information.
Thank you. And with that, once again, Council will do a reprise. All in favor? It is still carried. Same time, same thing. Moving on to bylaws. And once again, I believe Councillor Field, you have these before you.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gorley. Be it resolved that the council adopt the following bylaws: 2023-13, livestock valuer; 2023-14, appointment of deputy treasurer, deputy CAO clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Field. Once final opportunity for a question on either of these bylaws, Council, I'm looking for Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. Just noticed in the bylaw, the livestock evaluators currently get the $50 a only that the provincial program allows, or do we, like, have they had an increase recently, or is that been set for a long time?
That is all that they receive. That is all that we get from OMAFRA. There was a push from municipalities for OMAFRA to raise the rate to 150, but it hasn't been passed yet. So they only receive the 50 that we receive to give them back. So, and they don't receive anything extra from us but their mileage.
I guess my question to council is, should they? Like, if that's been set for 5 or 6 years, their time is worth as much as anybody else's, and they're not getting any increases. I realize it's up to us to supplement what the province has done if the province isn't acting up. But question either now or future discussion, but I'd like to see it looked at on behalf of those positions.
I can do a review of other areas that have livestock valuers and see what they pay them if they just do the $50. And in addition, then it would be something we could bring up at budget time.
Yeah, I think that for the purposes of the ensuing, that the bylaw is right in front of us to pass the resolution to do so, that it would seek to continue on. I'm assuming that the three identified evaluators have been consistent, maybe for the entire time I've been mayor. Presumably they are also aware of the rate that is available to them. So certainly satisfied with this current bylaw to be moving it forward. Anything further? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Old business is the action tracking list, and back to Councillor Field.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gorley. Be it resolved that council accepts the action tracking list as information.
Thank you. And there are no changes since the last we have viewed this, but if there are any, so I won't seek any comment from the CEO. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Carried. And confirm it, no, closed session. There was no closed session at the time. Sorry. New business. Any new business? There is none. There was no closed session required at the time of mailing. Has that changed? It has not. Ms. Sharkey is affirming for the recording of it. Perhaps you could not see the imperceptible nod.
There is no need for a closed session tonight.
There we are. There we are. Should we, Mr. McCarthy, I hope you caught that. Confirmatory bylaw, Councillor Hamilton.
There we go. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Curry, be resolved that bylaw 2023-15 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Township of Admaston at the meeting held February 16, 2023, be now numbered, being read 3 times and passed.
Thank you. Council, all in favor? That is carried. Question period. Councilor Hamilton.
Yeah, just for further future council meetings and maybe even in the budget applications, I know we talked briefly about a holiday time for staff, but has this township ever looked at flex hours for summer season, i.e. condensed work hours and
just to be, it's an absolutely legitimate question. It's consistent with the question period policy, which is the questions have to be pertaining to the agenda this evening. No issue with that if you wish for that to come forward at a future council meeting, but the question period is constrained only to the items that are on tonight's agenda.
Thank you for that. So should I have raised it under new business?
Possibly, or I mean, you can discuss that with the clerk to have something coming forward for discussion at a future meeting as well.
Thank you.
That's that. Any further questions? Seeing none, Councilor Hamilton, you have the motion to adjourn.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Gurley, that we have that the Thursday, February 16th, 2023 Township of Admaston Bromley meeting be adjourned at 8:46 p.m.
Thank you. Council, you've heard the resolution. All in favor? That is carried.